The Whistleblower's Dilemma. Dr. Sarah Chen stood frozen in the shadows of the dimly lit observation deck, her heart pounding against her ribcage. The scene unfolding before her eyes defied everything she had ever believed about the Galactic Council and its purported mission of unity and progress. Below, in a sterile white chamber, a small alien child lay strapped to an examination table. Its iridescent skin shimmered under the harsh lights, a beautiful spectacle marred by the clear signs of distress on its delicate features. Sarah recognized the species immediately. A Zephyrian, one of the rarest and most enigmatic races in the known galaxy. The Zephyrians were renowned for their empathic abilities, capable of not only sensing emotions but projecting them as well. It was this very gift that had made them a target for the Council's most unethical researchers. As Sarah watched, a tall, insectoid alien in a lab coat approached the child. Its mandibles clicked in what Sarah had learned to recognize as excitement. Increase the stimulus, it chittered to an assistant. We must push the limits of its pain threshold. The word sent a chill down Sarah's spine. She had been recruited to the Galactic Council's Xenobiology Department 6 months ago, fresh out of Earth's top research institution. The opportunity had seemed like a dream come true, a chance to study alien life forms and contribute to the grand tapestry of intergalactic knowledge. Never had she imagined she would bear witness to such cruelty. The assistant, a gelatinous being with multiple appendages, manipulated a series of controls. The child on the table suddenly arched its back, a silent scream etched across its face. And then, without warning, a wave of agony crashed over Sarah. She stumbled, barely managing to stifle a cry as the Zephyrian's pain flooded her senses. It was as if every nerve in her body had been set aflame, a torture so profound it threatened to shatter her very being. Through the haze of suffering, Sarah realized what was happening. The child's empathic abilities were projecting its torment outward, a desperate plea for help. As quickly as it had come, the pain subsided. Sarah found herself on her knees, cold sweat beading on her forehead. She glanced up at the observation window, terrified that her presence had been detected, but the researchers remained fixated on their small victim. Fascinating, the insectoid scientist exclaimed, mandibles quivering with excitement. Its range has increased by 7% since our last session. Make a note. The pain stimulus is proving to be an effective means of enhancing its empathic output. Sarah felt bile rise in her throat. She had to do something, had to stop this madness. But how? She was just one human, new to the Council and its Byzantine power structures. Who would believe her? Who would care? With shaking hands, she retrieved her data pad from her lab coat pocket. The device was Council-issued, every communication monitored and logged. Using it to report what she had seen would be tantamount to turning herself in. And yet, the thought of walking away, of allowing this torture to continue, was unbearable. Sarah's mind raced, considering and discarding options in rapid succession. She could confront the researchers directly, but that would likely result in her immediate dismissal, or worse. She could attempt to gather more evidence, but how long would that take? How much more would the child suffer in the meantime? As if in response to her turmoil, another wave of emotion washed over her. This time, it wasn't pain, but a profound sense of despair and loneliness. The Zephyrian child, sensing her presence, was reaching out. Tears welled in Sarah's eyes as the alien's emotions intertwined with her own. In that moment, she knew she couldn't walk away. Whatever the cost, she had to act. With trembling fingers, she activated her data pad's secure communication protocol, a feature she had never expected to use. It would mask the origin of her transmission, but only for a short time. Eventually, the Council's cybersecurity team would trace it back to her. Sarah took a deep breath and began to record. To whoever receives this message, what I'm about to share will sound incredible, perhaps even impossible. But I swear on everything I hold dear that it is the truth. My name is Dr. Sarah Chen, xenobiologist with the Galactic Council. What I've witnessed today shakes me to my very core. Her words came in a rush, detailing the horrific scene she had observed. She described the Zephyrian child, the cruel experiments, the callous disregard for sentient life demonstrated by her fellow researchers. As she spoke, she felt a weight lifting from her shoulders, even as a new one settled in its place, the burden of responsibility. "I don't know who to trust here on the council station," Sarah continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "So I'm sending this message to Earth, to the Committee for Interstellar Ethics. Please, you have to help. This innocent child, and who knows how many others, are suffering. We have to stop this." She paused, knowing that her next words could very well seal her fate. "I'll do whatever I can from here, gather whatever evidence I can. But be warned, the Council has eyes and ears everywhere. They'll come for me once they realize I've blown the whistle. Whatever happens to me, please, don't let my warning be in vain. Save them." With a final, shuddering breath, Sarah ended the recording. Her finger hovered over the transmit icon, a simple action that would irrevocably change the course of her life. In her mind's eye, she saw the Zephyrian child, saw its pain and fear. She thought of Earth, of the ideals of compassion and justice that humanity still strived for, despite its many flaws. She pressed send. The message zipped away into the vast digital network that connected the galaxy. Sarah allowed herself a moment of relief before the reality of her situation came crashing back down. She had just made herself an enemy of the Galactic Council, an organization with nearly limitless resources and influence. A soft chime from her datapad startled her. A new notification blinked on the screen. Message sent successfully. Recipient: Terran Guardian, Earth. Sarah frowned. That wasn't the destination she had entered. Who or what was Terran Guardian? Before she could investigate further, a commotion from the lab below snapped her attention back to the window. The Zephyrian child had managed to free one of its limbs and was thrashing wildly on the table. The insectoid scientist was barking orders, trying to restrain the small alien. In the chaos, the child's gaze swept the room, and for a heart-stopping moment, locked onto Sarah's position. A jolt of emotion hit her like a physical blow. Not pain or fear this time, but a desperate, pleading hope. The child had sensed her presence, had felt her empathy and revulsion at its treatment. In that split second of connection, Sarah felt the weight of the young alien's trust settle upon her. She couldn't hide in the shadows any longer. Whatever the consequences, she had to take direct action. With one last glance at her datapad, now silent and innocuous, Sarah squared her shoulders and strode towards the laboratory entrance. She didn't know what she would say or do, but she knew she had to try. As the door slid open with a soft hiss, Sarah felt as though she were stepping not just into a room, but into a new chapter of her life. And perhaps, though she couldn't know it yet, a new chapter in the history of human involvement in galactic affairs. The insectoid scientist turned at her entrance, mandibles clicking in irritation. "Dr. Chen, this is a restricted area. You don't have clearance, Stowe." "I'm here for the child," Sarah interrupted, surprising herself with the steel in her voice. "And I think it's time we had a long overdue conversation about the ethics of your research, Doctor." As alarms began to blare and security forces scrambled to respond, Sarah Chen, xenobiologist, whistleblower, and now rebel, stood her ground, ready to face whatever came next. The Zephyrian child, sensing the shift in the room's emotional landscape, ceased its struggles. For the first time since its captivity began, it felt something new, something it had almost forgotten. Hope, Earth's underground movement. The message from Dr. Sarah Chen hurtled through subspace, crossing vast interstellar distances in the blink of an eye. As it approached Earth, it was intercepted, decoded, and rerouted by systems far more advanced than anything the Galactic Council suspected humanity possessed. In a nondescript building in the heart of New Delhi, an alert chimed on a holographic display. Maya Vega, former UN ambassador and now the clandestine leader of Terran Guardian, leaned forward in her chair, Her dark eyes scanned the incoming transmission, widening as she absorbed its contents. "My God," she whispered, "it's even worse than we thought." The room around her hummed with activity. Terran Guardian's command center was a marvel of human ingenuity and alien technology, staffed by a diverse team of Earth's brightest minds. They had been monitoring the Galactic Council for years, gathering evidence of corruption and abuse. But this was beyond anything they had uncovered so far. Maya's fingers flew over the holographic interface, bringing up detailed profiles of the message's sender and the Zephyrian species. "Alexei," she called out to her second-in-command, "I need everything we have on Dr. Sarah Chen, and get me a secure line to our operative in the Council's Xenobiology Department." Alexei Volkov, a burly ex-FSB agent with a philosopher's soul, nodded grimly. "Right away. But Maya, if we act on this, there's no going back. The Council will know we exist." Maya's jaw set in a determined line. "They forced our hand, Alexei. We can't stand by while they torture children, alien or otherwise." As Terran Guardians sprang into action, the implications of Sarah's message rippled outward. In a secret facility beneath the Mariana Trench, Dr. Imani Okoro, Earth's leading xenotechnology expert, received an encrypted data packet. Her eyes widened as she reviewed the specifications of the Zephyrian's empathic abilities. "This changes everything," she murmured, mind racing with possibilities. If the Zephyrians could project emotions, could that ability be technologically augmented, weaponized, or, and this thought made her breath catch, could it be the key to fostering true understanding between species? Meanwhile, in a bustling spaceport on Mars, Captain Zora Zhang of the merchant vessel Star Chaser found her comm unit buzzing with an urgent message. As she read it, her usual easygoing expression hardened into a mask of determination. She had joined Terran Guardian to make a difference, to be more than just another cog in the galactic machine. Now, it seemed, her time had come. "Jiang," she called to her first mate, "plot a course for the edge. We've got a pickup to make." Back in New Delhi, Maya Vega faced her assembled team. The room crackled with tension and anticipation. "What I'm about to tell you," she began, her voice steady, "will fundamentally change our mission and potentially alter humanity's place in the galaxy." She gests, and a holographic display sprang to life, showing the image of a Zephyrian child. "This is what the Galactic Council is afraid of," Maya continued. "A species with the power to bridge the emotional gap between alien races. They fear understanding, fear the unity it could bring, because a united galaxy is one they can no longer control." The room erupted in murmurs of shock and anger. Maya let it wash over her for a moment before raising her hand for silence. "Our job now is twofold. First, we need to extract Dr. Chen and the Zephyrian child. Captain Zhang is already en route. Second, we need to show the galaxy the truth." Alexei stepped forward, his craggy face grim. "The Council controls nearly all interstellar communications. How can we possibly get the message out?" A sly smile crossed Maya's face. "We've been preparing for this, my friend. It's time to activate Project Wildfire." A ripple of excitement passed through the room. Project Wildfire was Terran Guardian's most ambitious and risky endeavor, a network of dormant AI programs seeded throughout the galactic net, waiting to be awakened. "Dr. Okoro," Maya continued, turning to the holographic projection of the scientist, still in her underwater lab, "how soon can you have the emotion amplifier ready?" Imani's image flickered slightly as she considered, given the new data on Zephyrian biology. 12 hours, maybe less. But Maya, we haven't tested it on a non-human subject. The risks are less than the risk of doing nothing. Maya finished firmly. Humanity has hidden in the shadows long enough. It's time to show the galaxy who we really are. As Terran Guardian mobilized, the galactic stage was being set for a confrontation that would shake the foundations of interstellar society. But even as Maya and her team worked feverishly to put their plan into action, other forces were stirring. In the opulent chambers of the Galactic Council's inner sanctum, Arbiter Zekshal, a being of pure energy contained within an ornate metallic shell, reviewed the latest security reports. A tendril of plasma lashed out, incinerating the datapad. "Impossible," Zekshal hissed, its voice a discordant hum of frequencies. "The humans cannot have progressed this far without our knowledge." The Arbiter's aide, a willowy creature with 4 arms and iridescent scales, cowered slightly. "The evidence is clear, Exalted One. Our systems detected a high-level security breach originating from the xenobiology lab, and our deep-cover agents on Earth report unusual activity among certain dissident groups." Zekshal's form pulsed with barely contained fury. "Increase surveillance on all human territories, lock down all research facilities, and send a containment team to the xenobiology lab immediately. The Zephyrian subject must not be allowed to escape." As the aide scurried to comply, Zekshal turned its attention to the vast holographic display dominating one wall of the chamber. It showed a real-time map of the galaxy, with Earth a small, pulsing dot on the fringes. "Oh, humanity," the Arbiter mused, a note of grudging admiration in its harmonic voice. "You've hidden your true nature well, but you're not ready for the real game. Not yet." With a gesture, Zekshal brought up the classified files on Project Ascension. The true reason behind the Council's interest in empathic species. The Zephyrian child was just the beginning, a small piece in a cosmic puzzle that had been in the making for millennia. Let them have their little rebellion, Zekshal decided. It will make their eventual compliance all the sweeter. But even as the Arbiter plotted, it failed to grasp a fundamental truth about the species it sought to manipulate. Humanity, for all its flaws and internal conflicts, possessed a unique drive, a burning desire to stand against injustice, to fight for the oppressed, even at great personal cost. As Dr. Sarah Chen faced down her captors in the Council's lab, as Captain Zhang pushed her ship to its limits racing towards a rescue, as Maya Vega prepared to unveil humanity's hidden strength to the galaxy, a new chapter in cosmic history was about to be written. In the sterile white room where the Zephyrian child lay, a small monitor began to beep insistently. The child's empathic output was spiking, broadcasting a complex web of emotions. Fear and pain, yes, but also a growing spark of something else. Something that made the attending scientists step back in confusion and growing unease. Hope, defiance, and a fierce, burning resolve that seemed to echo from somewhere, or someone, beyond. The stage was set. Humanity's fire was about to spread across the stars, igniting a blaze that would forever change the face of galactic civilization. And at the heart of it all, a single act of compassion from one human doctor to an alien child. Proof that even in the coldest reaches of space, the warmth of human empathy could not be extinguished. The daring rescue. The Galactic Council's Nexus Station hung in space like a massive, gleaming spider web, its crystalline spires reflecting the light of a nearby binary star system. It was a marvel of alien engineering, thought to be impregnable. But as Commander Jack Harper's stealth shuttle slipped past its outer defenses, he allowed himself a grim smile. The Council was about to learn a harsh lesson about underestimating humanity. Approaching drop point, Commander. The pilot's voice crackled through the comm. Phase shift drive is primed and ready. Jack nodded, his weathered face set in lines of concentration. He turned to his team. 5 of the most skilled and dangerous individuals Earth had to offer, each with their own reasons for joining this mission. "Remember," he said, his voice low and intense, "we're not just here for the doc and the kid. This is humanity's coming out party. Let's make it one the galaxy won't forget." Beside him, Zara Zhang, the Star Chaser's captain turned infiltration specialist, checked her phase shift harness one last time. "Just like old times, Jack," she quipped, but her eyes were serious. On Zora's other side, Dr. Imani Okoro clutched a sleek, alien-looking device. The emotion amplifier was untested in field conditions, but it was their best hope for handling the Zephyrian child safely. "I still say this is crazy," she muttered. "Crazy is what we do best, Doc," replied Alexei Volkov, the team's muscle and demolitions expert. His massive frame was surprisingly graceful as he moved through the shuttle's cramped interior. Rounding out the team were the siblings Yuki and Akira Tanaka, twin prodigies in cybernetics and xenobiology respectively. They worked in silent tandem, making last-minute adjustments to their specialized gear. As the shuttle entered the station's shadow, Jack felt the familiar surge of adrenaline. "All right, people, masks on, phase shifters ready. We go on my mark." The experimental technology hummed to life, enveloping each team member in a field of quantum uncertainty. Jack took a deep breath and gave the signal. "Mark." They leaped from the shuttle, their bodies seeming to flicker and blur as the phase-shift drives engage. For a heart-stopping moment, Jack felt as if he were everywhere and nowhere at once. Then reality snapped back into focus as they passed through the station's hull like ghosts. They materialized in a deserted corridor, the station's internal sensors oblivious to their presence. Jack allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. Phase 1 complete. "Yuki, you're up," he whispered. The young woman nodded, her fingers dancing over a holographic interface. The station's security systems were formidable, but to Yuki, they might as well have been elementary school puzzles. In moments, she had their route mapped out and security cameras on a loop. "We've got 15 minutes before the system notices the anomalies," she reported. "Then let's not waste time," Jack replied. "Move out." They made their way through the labyrinthine station, encountering no resistance. It was almost too easy, and Jack felt a prickle of unease. Had the council really grown so complacent? His question was answered as they rounded a corner and came face to face with a squad of Praetorian guards, the council's elite enforcers. For a frozen moment, both sides stared at each other in shock. Then all hell broke loose. The guards' energy weapons flared to life, filling the corridor with searing bolts of plasma. But the human team was already in motion. Alexei charged forward, his nanofiber-reinforced body shrugging off hits that would have vaporized a normal being. He collided with the guards like a freight train, scattering them like pins. Zara and Jack moved in perfect sync, their own weapons, hybrid designs incorporating both human ingenuity and reverse-engineered alien tech, cutting down the remaining guards with surgical precision. As the last Praetorian fell, Jack tapped his comm. "Citrip, security's going haywire," Yuki reported, her voice tense. "They know we're here now. I'm doing what I can to slow them down, but we need to move fast." "Understood. Akira, what's our target's location?" The young xenobiologist consulted his scanner. 2 levels down, high-security research wing. "But Jack, I'm picking up some weird readings. The Zephyrian's empathic output is off the charts." Jack frowned. "That complicated things." "Doc, is the amplifier ready?" Imani nodded, her face a mask of concentration. "Ready as it'll ever be. But I still can't predict how it will interact with the child's abilities." "We'll cross that bridge when we come to it," Jack decided. "Let's move." They fought their way down, encountering increasingly fierce resistance. The council was throwing everything it had at them, but the human team moved like a well-oiled machine, each member's skills complementing the others perfectly. As they approached the research wing, Jack felt a sudden wave of emotion wash over him. Fear, pain, and a desperate, pleading hope. The Zephyrian child had sensed their approach. "We're close," he gritted out. "Imani, fire up that amplifier. Everyone else, be ready for anything." The doors to the lab hissed open, revealing a scene of chaos. Dr. Sarah Chin was there, standing protectively over the Zephyrian child's containment pod. She held a makeshift weapon, a broken piece of lab equipment, and faced down a group of alien scientists and security personnel. "Step away from the subject," An insectoid researcher was saying, its mandibles clicking in agitation. You don't understand what's at stake here. I understand enough. Sarah spat back. I won't let you. She broke off as she saw Jack's team enter. For a moment, confusion warred with hope on her face. Who? The cavalry, Jack said simply. Down. Sarah ducked just as Alexei launched a concussive grenade into the group of aliens. The blast sent them flying, clearing the path to the containment pod. Akira, get that pod open, Jack ordered. Duck, now's your chance. Do your thing. As Akira worked on the pod's controls, the Manny stepped forward, the emotion amplifier humming to life. The device began to glow, resonating with the Zephyrian's empathic field. The pod hissed open, revealing the small, iridescent form of the alien child. Its large, luminous eyes fixed on Imani, filled with a mixture of fear and desperate hope. It's okay, Imani said softly, extending her hand. We're here to help. You're safe now. She activated the amplifier, and suddenly the lab was filled with a palpable wave of emotion. But instead of the expected fear or pain, what radiated from the child was an overwhelming sense of relief, gratitude, and wonder. The Zephyrian reached out, its slender fingers intertwining with Imani's. In that moment of connection, everyone in the room, human and alien alike, was united in a shared experience of empathy and understanding. But the moment of peace was shattered as alarms blared throughout the station. We've got incoming, Yuki warned, her voice tight. Lots of incoming. Jack made a split-second decision. Change of plans. We're not sneaking out. We're going loud. He turned to Sarah. Dr. Chen, I know you have questions, but right now I need to know. Are you with us? Sarah looked at the Zephyrian child, then back at Jack. Her jaw set in determination. All the way. Good, Jack nodded. Because we're about to show the Galactic Council what happens when they push humanity too far. As the sounds of approaching forces grew louder, the team prepared for battle. The Zephyrian child, still connected to Imani through the amplifier, radiated a new emotion, a fierce, protective determination that resonated with every human present. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and trapped in the heart of enemy territory. But as Jack looked at his team, this unlikely group of humans, and their alien charge, he felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Hope. The rescue was only the beginning. The real battle, for the future of humanity and the galaxy itself, was about to begin. Galactic Uprising. The escape from the Nexus station was a blur of frantic action and near misses. Commander Jack Harper's team, along with Dr. Sarah Chen and the Zephyrian child, had fought their way to a hangar bay, commandeering a sleek council vessel in a hail of weapons fire. As they punched through the station's defensive screen, alarms blaring in their wake, Jack allowed himself a moment of grim satisfaction. Yuki, he called out, activate Project Wildfire. It's time to light the fuse. The young hacker's fingers flew over her console, initiating the sequence that would awaken Terran Guardian's dormant AI network throughout the galactic communications grid. Within moments, the truth about the Council's cruel experiments began to spread across thousands of worlds. Aboard the Star Chaser, now serving as the command center for the human resistance, Maya Vega watched as reports flooded in from across the galaxy. It's working, she breathed, her eyes wide with a mixture of hope and apprehension. The uprising has begun. On countless planets, space stations, and starships, beings of all species were witnessing the evidence of the Council's atrocities. The Zephyrian child's story, amplified by Dr. Okuro's emotion-enhancing technology, struck a chord that transcended biological and cultural differences. On Arborea, a planet of sentient plant life, the communal root system pulsed with shared outrage. In the methane seas of Typhon, crystalline entities vibrated in harmonies of protest. The silicon hives of the Lithoid Collective hummed with unprecedented unity as they processed the information. But it was on the thousands of worlds where the Council's grip had always been tenuous that the real firestorm ignited. Years of resentment and suspicion boiled over into open revolt. On New Samarkand, a dust-swept colony on the outer rim, dockworkers refused to load council supply ships. The Praetorian Guards moved to suppress the strike, energy weapons charge. But this time, they found themselves facing not just angry civilians, but a well-armed militia that seemed to appear out of nowhere. Jenna Sato, local leader of the resistance and secret Terran Guardian operative, stood at the forefront of the crowd. "We are not your slaves," she shouted, her voice carrying over the whine of charging weapons. "We are not your experiments. Today, we claim our freedom." A cheer went up from the crowd, echoed by thousands of voices from the surrounding city. The Praetorians, outnumbered and suddenly unsure, began to fall back. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. On Lysithea, a sprawling ecumenopolis that served as a major council administrative center, the once docile servant class rose up in a coordinated strike that paralyzed the planet's operations. Led by Kelvero, a charismatic Luxian with shimmering, multifaceted eyes, they seized control of the central broadcast hub. "For too long, we have been blind." Kelvero's voice resonated through every communication device on the planet. "But humanity has shown us the truth. The Council does not protect us. It exploits us. It does not unite us. It divides us. Today, we say, no more." The Council's response was swift and brutal. Warships converged on rebellious worlds, their weapons primed to deliver devastating orbital strikes. But here, too, they met unexpected resistance. In the skies above New Samarkand, a fleet of ships suddenly winked into existence, their sleek hulls gleaming with an iridescence that spoke of technology far beyond standard Council designs. At their head was the Star Chaser, now transformed into a formidable battlecruiser. Captain Zorajung's voice crackled over the comms. "Attention Council forces. This is your one and only warning. Stand down, or be destroyed." For a moment, the Council fleet hesitated, their sensors struggling to make sense of the ships before them. Then, with a defiant roar, they opened fire. The battle that followed would be remembered for generations as the opening salvo of the Galactic Liberation War. The human-led forces, wielding technology that had been developed in secret for decades, proved more than a match for the Council's superior numbers. Zara's voice was calm and steady as she directed the fleet. "Aegis shields at full power. Return fire, all batteries. Let's show them what humanity can do." Energy beams lanced across space, Council ships exploding in brilliant flares of light. But the human fleet wasn't fighting alone. Ships of various designs and origins jumped into the fray, their captains inspired by the call for freedom. On the bridge of the Star Chaser, Maya Vega watched the battle unfold with a mixture of pride and sorrow. "This is only the beginning," she murmured. "The real fight is yet to come." As if in response to her words, a priority communication came through. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing the imposing form of Arbiter Zekshul. "You surprise me, humans," the being of pure energy hummed, its voice a discordant symphony. "I had not thought your species capable of such audacity." Maya stood tall, her eyes flashing with determination. "We're full of surprises, Arbiter. Your reign of tyranny ends now." Zekshul's form pulsed with what might have been amusement. "Oh, you delightful primitives. You have no idea of the forces you're meddling with. The Council has stood for millennia. Do you really think your little rebellion can topple us?" "We don't think," Maya replied, her voice steel. "We know, because unlike you, we understand the power of unity, of compassion, of freedom." The Arbiter's response was cut off as another transmission broke through, this one broadcasting across all frequencies, to every corner of the galaxy. The holographic display shifted, showing the interior of the Star Chaser's medical bay. There, surrounded by a team of human and alien medical staff, stood Dr. Imani Okoro. Beside her, perched on an examination table, was the Zephyrian child. "People of the galaxy," Imani began, her voice clear and strong. I am Dr. Imani, Okoro of Earth. With me is a child of the Zephyrian race, a being the Council sought to exploit for its remarkable empathic abilities. But today, we turn their cruelty into our strength." She nodded to the child, who placed its hand on the emotion amplifier. Suddenly, every being watching the transmission was flooded with a wave of pure emotion, not just the child's feelings, but a composite of sentiments from across the galaxy. Pain, fear, and anger, yes, but also hope, determination, and a burning desire for freedom. "This is the true face of our galaxy," Imani continued, her own eyes glistening with tears. "Not the sterile, controlled vision the Council would have you believe. We are diverse, we are passionate, and we are united in our desire for justice." As the emotional waves subsided, leaving viewers across the galaxy shaken and moved, Imani's voice took on a tone of iron resolve. "To those who have suffered under the Council's rule, you are not alone. To those who have been silent out of fear, your time to speak is now. And to the Council itself, your time is over. We, the united peoples of the galaxy, demand our freedom, and we will accept nothing less." The transmission cut off, leaving a moment of profound silence. Then, across countless worlds, a roar of approval went up. The Galactic uprising, sparked by human courage and alien suffering, had become an unstoppable force. Back on the Star Chaser's bridge, Maya turned to face Arbiter Zexshel's still active hologram. The energy being's form was fluctuating wildly, its harmonics a cacophony of confusion and rage. "You see, Arbiter," Maya said quietly, "this is humanity's gift to the galaxy. Not technology, not weapons, but hope, the one force you can never truly suppress." As Zexshel's image faded, Maya turned to her crew, her eyes blazing with determination. "Now," she said, "the real work begins." The Galactic uprising had begun in earnest, and at its heart, an unlikely alliance of humans and aliens stood ready to fight for a future where freedom and compassion would reign supreme. The New Order, the Great Dome of the Galactic Council's central chamber, once a symbol of unchallenged authority, now bore the scars of recent conflict. Scorch marks marred its crystalline surface, and makeshift barricades cluttered its ornate corridors. Yet within, a scene unfolded that would have been unthinkable mere weeks ago. Representatives from 1,000 worlds filled the chamber, their diversity a testament to the true face of the galaxy. Tentacled cephalons floated alongside crystalline lithoids. Methane-breathing typhons shimmered in their environment suits next to the photosynthetic Arborians. And there, at the heart of it all, stood a delegation from Earth. Maya Vega stepped forward, her eyes sweeping across the assembled beings. The chamber fell silent, the weight of history settling upon them all. "Friends, allies, fellow sentients," Maya began, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast space. "We stand here today on the precipice of a new era. The old order has fallen, but the path forward is not yet clear. It falls to us to shape the galaxy we wish to inhabit." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Kelvero, the Luxian leader who had been instrumental in the uprising on Lysithea, spoke up. "You humans have led us this far. Surely you have a plan for what comes next." Maya smiled, but shook her head. "That is not the human way, Kelvero. We did not fight to replace one tyranny with another, even a benevolent one. The future must be decided by all, for all." From the Typhon delegation, a crystalline tone rang out. "But how can we possibly find common ground? Our needs, our values, our very biologies are so different." It was Dr. Imani Okoro who stepped forward then, the Zephyrian child at her side. "That is precisely why we need each other," she said. "Our differences are not a weakness, but our greatest strength. Together, we can achieve things that none of us could alone." The child raised its hand, and once again, the emotion amplifier pulsed to life. But this time, instead of broadcasting a single sentiment, it created a harmonic tapestry of feelings and thoughts from every being in the room. For a moment, They were united not in uniformity, but in understanding. As the effect faded, a new voice spoke up, one that sent a ripple of unease through the chamber. Arbiter Zekshul, last of the old council, hovered at the edge of the gathering. Pretty words and parlor tricks, the energy being hummed. But you cannot erase millennia of history with good intentions. The galaxy needs order, structure. Without the council, you will descend into chaos and war. Commander Jack Harper stepped forward, his scared face set in grim lines. We've seen your kind of order, Arbiter. It leads only to stagnation and cruelty. It's time for something new. Zekshul's form pulsed with barely contained fury. You short-sighted fools. You have no idea of the forces you're meddling with. The council was all that stood between this galaxy and total annihilation. A hush fell over the chamber. Maya's eyes narrowed. What are you talking about, Arbiter? For a moment, Zekshul seemed to waver. Then, with a sound like a dying star, the being's form expanded, filling the chamber with coruscating energy. The great filter approaches, it intoned, its voice reverberating through the bones of all present. We have held it at bay for eons, but it cannot be stopped forever, only delayed, managed at a terrible cost. Images flashed through the minds of all present, vast, incomprehensible shapes moving between the stars, civilizations rising and falling like waves on a cosmic shore, and always, always, the encroaching darkness at the edge of the galaxy. As the vision faded, leaving the assembled beings shaken, Dr. Sarah Chen stepped forward. Is this why? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Is this why you tortured that child? Why you've held the galaxy in a stranglehold for so long? Zekshul's form contracted, seeming almost weary. You cannot fight entropy, Doctor. We did what had to be done to preserve life in this galaxy, no matter the cost. A heavy silence fell over the chamber. The threat Zekshul spoke of was beyond anything they had imagined. For a moment, doubt began to creep in. Perhaps the Council's iron grip had been necessary after all. But then, a small voice spoke up. The Zephyrian child, its iridescent eyes wide with wisdom beyond its years, addressed the gathering. You're wrong, it said simply, its melodic voice carrying clearly through the chamber. We can fight entropy. Not alone, but together. The child turned to Dr. Okoro, who nodded encouragingly. Show them, she said softly. Once more, the emotion amplifier hummed to life. But this time, something was different. The Zephyrian's empathic field expanded, touching each mind in the chamber, and as it did, connections began to form. Suddenly, the Cephalon's psionic abilities linked with the Lithoid's silicon-based computing. The Typhon's quantum senses merged with the Arborean's planet-wide neural networks. And there, at the heart of it all, was humanity's unique gift. Adaptability, creativity, the ability to see patterns where others saw only chaos. In that moment of connection, a new understanding dawned. The threat Zekshul spoke of was real, but the Council's approach had been fundamentally flawed. They had sought to fight entropy by imposing stasis, by controlling and limiting the galaxy's potential. But the true answer lay in diversity, in growth, in the messy, beautiful chaos of billions of minds working together. As the connection faded, Maya stepped forward once more. Her eyes shone with a new fire, a new purpose. This is the way forward, she declared. Not through control, but through cooperation. Not through fear, but through hope. She turned to Zekshul, whose form had dimmed to a faint flicker. Your time is over, Arbiter. But your knowledge, your experience, these are valuable. Will you join us in building this new future, as an equal, not a ruler? For a long moment, Zekshul was silent. Then, slowly, its form stabilized. Perhaps it hummed, there is still something for an old being to learn. In the days and weeks that followed, a new galactic order began to take shape. It was not perfect, not without conflict or disagreement, but it was alive in a way the old council had never been. The Great Dome was transformed into a hub of innovation and cooperation. The Zephyrian Child, under the guardianship of Dr. Okoro and Dr. Chen, became a symbol of the new era, a bridge between species, a beacon of empathy in a vast and complex galaxy. Humanity, for its part, found a new role. No longer hidden, no longer pretending to be less than they were, they became facilitators, diplomats, innovators. Their ships ranged far and wide, not as conquerors, but as explorers and peacekeepers. And as for the Great Filter, the existential threat that loomed on the cosmic horizon, it was not forgotten. But now, as a united galaxy turned its collective intelligence and creativity to the problem, what once seemed insurmountable began to look merely challenging. On a balcony overlooking the transformed council chamber, now buzzing with activity, Maya Vega stood with Commander Harper and Captain Zhang. They watched as representatives from 100 worlds collaborated on a new project, a vast network of sensors and defenses that would span the galaxy. "You know," Zura said, a wry smile on her face, "when I signed up for this, I thought we were just going to overthrow a corrupt government. Saving the galaxy from cosmic entropy wasn't in the job description." Jack chuckled, the sound rusty but genuine. "Since when has humanity ever done things by half measures?" Maya's gaze was fixed on the distance, where the first stars of evening were becoming visible. "We've got a long road ahead of us," she said softly. "But for the first time in a long time, I'm not afraid of the future. Whatever comes, we'll face it together." As night fell on the galactic capital, ships of all shapes and sizes streaked across the sky, not in war, but in shared purpose. And on countless worlds, beings looked up at those same stars with a new sense of wonder and possibility. The age of the Galactic Council was over. The age of unity had begun, and at its heart was the indomitable spirit of humanity, a flame of hope burning bright against the vast darkness of space.